Set it automatically.
All right. Hello, everybody, and good afternoon. We are seeing the numbers trickle in as more people hop in to today's SWAD prep event and join us as we share all the information that you need to know before next Friday for Social Work Advocacy Day. So give us just a couple more seconds here until we see some of the numbers stagnate. That way, nobody misses any of the content. And feel free and change your name if you haven't had a chance to, or if it allows you, so that we know what school you're with, who you are, help us gauge who all is in the audience. But I hope everybody's having a great Friday so far, and just give us a couple seconds here.
I do want to note we're having some weird glitch with our Zoom. This happened early this morning. A lot of you are entering the room as Taylor Zambrano. Nothing wrong with being a Taylor Zambrano, but you might want to change your name if you like, if you want to use that change name feature.
I'd also encourage y'all to start introducing yourselves in the chat. You know, it's an info session to get some good information, but this is also the people that you'll be hanging out with next week, right? So I'm going to go ahead and put a little prompt in the chat and may have to reshare it as people come in. But go ahead and introduce yourselves. Where y'all from?
University of Houston downtown.
All right, Houston. Who else?
Hi, I'm Adrienne from University of Houston downtown.
More Houston folks. Love to see it.
Hi, I'm Isabella from Howard Payne here in Brownwood, Texas.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Isabel.
Yeah, I know Isabella. I'm Kim from San Angelo, Texas.
Hey!
San Angelo. All right. What other schools are on the line? I'm seeing the chat go off with lots of folks. Who else we got? Introduce yourselves.
I'm Autumn Buckner from Texas A&M, Central Texas.
All right. Central Texas.
I'm Amy Shelton. I'm from Hardin-Simmons University in Abilene, Texas.
Thanks for joining, Amy.
Hi, I'm Lori
Jessica
Brown. I'm from UTA. I'm Josette Calambay from UTA.
All right. Great. Well, thanks, everybody. I'm seeing more folks from all different universities across the state of Texas mention where they're from in the chat. And it looks like we have a lot of folks pretty locked into our presentation for the day. So we're going to go ahead and get started so we do not fall behind. We have so much to cover, and I want to make sure that we get to everybody's questions today. For those of y'all that don't know, and if we haven't met before, my name is Bryan Mares. I'm the Government Relations Director at NASW-TX. For those of y'all that this is maybe your first NASW-TX event, and this is the first time you're hearing about who NASW-TX is, and not sure, see one of our staff can help us get rid of that red line. I don't know where that came from. But anyways, if this is the first time you're hearing about NASW-TX, we are the professional association for social workers in Texas. We do everything from our advocacy at the Capitol, which is the lobbying that I do for our organization there at the building behind me. And we also offer a lot of things such as continuing education credits, resources for licensing examination and prep courses, and so much more. And Jess will talk a little bit more about that at the end of our presentation today. But I wanted to do some housekeeping items. So before I let the rest of our staff introduce themselves, we have questions that you can send in the chat. One of our staff, Shannon, is monitoring it, and she'll be copying them, and we'll save the questions towards the very end so that we make sure we cover all the content we need to as we go through. And the other piece I did want to mention is that we have a website that this presentation will be on afterwards, the NASW-TX SWAD website. So if you would like a copy of the presentation, just keep an eye out for it there afterwards. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to the rest of our policy team to introduce themselves.
Hey everybody, I'm Taylor Zambrano. I'm the Member Engagement Communication Specialist here at NASW-TX. Been here for about 4 years now, and I'm also operating in the capacity of an intern this semester. I'm getting my master's in social work at UT. So I'm also part of the intern team as well.
And I am Jess Riley. I am the Community Engagement Coordinator here at NASW Texas. From intern to here we are now. I've been here for a couple years and probably have spoken to a lot of you in different ways to get you here, or at least talk to your professors. So.
All right. Thank you, Taylor and Jess. Next slide, please. We have the rest of our amazing policy team, Shannon.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shannon. I'm also a Masters of Social Work intern at NASW Texas this semester. I go to UT Austin. So I'm covering a few different topics during the session, including abortion and reproductive justice, school safety issues, LGBTQ issues. I'm also working on our paid practicums bill. So very excited about co-hosting a workshop during SWAD with Jess and meeting all of you.
Thank you, Shannon. Christine.
Hi, my name is Christine. I am a master's intern at currently at UT San Antonio, and I am currently covering the policy subjects of student discipline, student safety, student mental health, and child welfare, in addition to supporting the alternative licensure bill, as well as the student mental health allotment bill.
Thanks, Christine. And we'll be talking a little bit about those bills shortly, so you'll have an idea. Next, Abby.
Hi everyone, my name is Abigail, or Abby, she, her pronouns. I'm also a master's student at UT Austin, interning with NASW. My policy topics focus a lot on healthcare, so Medicaid, CHIP, women's health, public benefits are related. I'm also working on some of our pay parity bills, mental health loan repayment, and Homes for Heroes.
Thank you, Abby and policy team. If anybody has any questions throughout the legislative session about some of the policy issues that we cover, as you heard from our team, we cover so many different issues that impact social workers in the communities we work with. So please reach out to one of us. If you ever have questions throughout the session on something, we'd be more than happy to answer it. But let's go ahead then and jump to the next slide and talk a little bit about what is SWAD and what we can expect. So Social Work Advocacy Day. This, well, we're really excited to first say that it is going to be back to fully in person. And we are excited to rally the troops and everybody on this day to really mobilize the grassroots advocacy for our profession at the Capitol, and bringing people from every corner of the state of Texas to talk about those issues, hopefully meet with their legislators, learn about the legislative advocacy and engage in it. Yes, Lynn, the slides will be shared on the SWAD website at the end of the presentation. And yes, it'll be next Friday. It'll be in Austin, Texas. And we have a long day from 8 a.m. to 3:30. I understand that some folks will only be able to come for a certain portion of the day. That's all right. We welcome you all. And we're going to jump to we'll share more on the agenda, what all we can expect in a bit. But let's talk a little bit about what exactly can we all expect for social work. Maybe it's your first time attending. Maybe it's your first time back in person since 2020 if you joined then. But Social Work Advocacy Day, like I mentioned, helps mobilize that grassroots advocacy for students and professionals alike. It really sheds some light on some of the legislative process, which I'll talk about in the morning of SWAD. And it'll also give students the opportunity to be able to engage in that advocacy, find an issue that is important to all of you, and be able to hopefully meet with your legislator and talk about it, asking them to count on their support for that initiative. Or also meet with other social work students and professionals. This is also a networking opportunity. I emphasize this to our team of interns all the time. Bring business cards, have your emails available. Jess will talk later in this presentation on how to do that in a digital form so that you can network with other students. All of that is important now so that once you graduate, you have a network already built and are able to reach out to those folks that you've met in the past and build your career and find different networking opportunities across the state. So in addition to that, you'll be able to practice advocacy with other students as well. So we'll provide some resources and tools that all of you can use before Advocacy Day to prepare for all that, especially if you are meeting with your legislative office. But really, the overarching goal behind SWAD is to be able to amplify the voices of our profession, specifically around students, and help hopefully bring more light around the NASW Texas policy priorities so that we can advance many of the champion bills that I'll talk about in a minute and all speak in one voice. Next.
Can we go back real quick? I just want to make sure I launch this poll. I would love to see who in the room has been to SWAD before.
Yes, thank you for reminding me, Jess. Please fill out that poll. We would love to know if this is your first time returning. Let us know in the poll.
So we have people still answering, I'll let you know.
I made sure to put yes, I've attended before without giving away my age. It was Social Work Advocacy Day that I attended as a student a few years back to get me into policy advocacy as well. So excited to bring more students. All right, looks like
let's talk about the theme, and then I'll end it at the end of that slide to see what people say.
Yeah, let's do that. We'll save the results, the drum roll. All right, so paving pathways for all. That it will be our theme for SWAD. And some of you might be asking, okay, well, how do we land here? What's the meaning behind it? The meaning behind it is centered around our legislative priorities for this session that NASW Texas has identified. And I'll talk about that next. But behind those legislative priorities, you will notice that we have a policy initiative or champion legislation that impacts every single or wherever anybody is in the social work profession, whether you are a student, a clinician, an LMSW working towards your clinical license, or just working towards your LBSW or LMSW examination. We have an initiative or bill that will focus on that to try and strengthen our profession, enhance it overall, so that we can make sure we are equipped to serve the communities and quickly getting into that workforce. We hear a lot about the social work workforce shortage and the mental health workforce shortage in Texas, and we've been testifying that this session and over the interim. So it's important that, or we found it important that this session be focused for social workers to pave pathways for all, so that ultimately we are paving pathways to success for not just our profession, but also our clients and the communities we serve all across the state of Texas. So without, well, let's look at those poll results if they are in, and then we can talk about some of those initiatives we're working on.
Looks like we got a lot of first timers here, Bryan. I am very excited about that, which means that probably everyone in here needs this presentation, right? So this is awesome. I'm so glad that y'all found your way here, and let's talk about everything to come. This is awesome. I'm so excited to have some new folks joining us next Friday.
I am too, and I know we're going to have a lot of people, but I would love to meet with as many folks as I can on SWAD and answer any questions and get to know all of you. But let's jump into those policy priorities that I mentioned around paving pathways for all social workers. So when I talk about that, I'm talking about some of these bills specifically here that we're working on, starting with House Bill 2522 by Representative Jarvis Johnson. This bill was filed just earlier this week for us that focuses on creating a more accessible way to obtaining your licensing through the exam. So in summer of last year, some of y'all may know, the Association of Social Work Boards released some data that revealed some significant disparities in test taking exam results for Black and Latinos versus white test takers, and that the rates were just shown that the exam was not fair and impartial, which then defies Texas statute when it comes to the licensing exam. ASWB has gone back to say that we are going to work on developing a fair and impartial exam, but knowing that that is going to take time and not be an overnight solution on their end, NASW Texas is working to create a one-time licensing or application fee for the LBSW and LMSW exam by directing the Behavioral Health Executive Committee to use any incoming revenue or overhead to cover the costs of exam applications for test takers needing to retake the exam on their second or third try, in addition to waiving the 90-day waiting period. So right now in Texas, if you failed the exam by, let's say, 2 questions, you need to wait 90 days before you can retake, unless your state has a waiver in place. We do not have anything that allows or prohibits that, so we'd like to allow for that. And then the other component to it is reinstating an alternative method to exam competency. So if an individual fails to pass the exam after their second or third attempt, we want to ensure that there is some sort of other examination in place that builds on competency or ensures competency, so that others can make sure that they obtain their license. So there will be a substitute to this bill. So if you were to search it now, it's not in its final place. So we're planning on making some changes to it. House Bill 1396 would ensure pay parity for all mental health professionals offering psychotherapy services. And it would also ensure that LMSWs under clinical supervision for their LCSW would be able to bill Medicaid at 70% of a reimbursement rate for psychotherapy services. We constantly hear about the shortage of mental health professionals in the Medicaid network. And one of the ways that we can build a robust and sustainable workforce in this public health space is by allowing these individuals and other associates, such as the LPC associates and LMFT associates, to be able to bill Medicaid at 70% of the reimbursement rate. In addition to that, right now, those already LCSWs are only able to bill, the already clinical social workers are only able to bill for psychotherapy at that 70% reimbursement rate, whereas psychologists and psychiatrists can bill at 100. So we want to bring parity, which is what I mean there, to 100% there, and then allowing those working towards their supervision or clinical license to bill at 70%. That's House Bill 1396 by Representative Moody. Next, we have House Bill 1248, Homes for Texas Heroes. But this is a refile from last session. And what this bill does is add licensed social workers to the list of eligible professionals for the down payment assistance program known as the Texas Homes for Heroes. This is a program that is funded through housing bonds by the state of Texas. Many professionals that social workers work alongside with, such as teachers, veterans, law enforcement, and others in the public service space and nonprofit space, are already eligible for it. Adding licensed social workers would not prevent any of those other professions from accessing these down payment assistance funds. And we have a one-pager on this and all of these other bills on our website. Shannon, if you're able to actually link the link on the website to some of these one-pagers, so if students and others want to learn more about them, they can access it there. Now, if y'all weren't listening to those bills before, listen up now for the social work intern practicum stipends program. So like I said, we are touching legislation that impacts every single social worker, no matter where they are in their career, including students. We've heard the concerns, we've heard your voices talk about this, and we understand it from a very social justice perspective, that we need to be compensating our interns, our students in these placements fairly. Although, as I say all the time, American economics is built on free labor. We should not be moving forward on that notion. We should be offering compensation for all the hard work that our interns do. I myself was an unpaid intern, so I'm familiar with it. And what we're doing is creating a stipend program that would be housed at the Texas Higher Ed Coordinating Board that would funnel funds to universities accredited by the CSWE that would then determine which students would be eligible for the stipend program at an hourly rate of $15 an hour for BSWs, and I believe it was $20 an hour for MSW students. We don't have a bill number officially on this yet. We actually just had a draft of the bill come back from the staff at the Capitol that writes bills today, and we should have an official bill number in the next few days ahead, early next week, so that when you come to SWAD, you're able to take a bill number to your legislator and say, can we count on your support for this bill? Will you sign on as a co-author? And we already have some one-pagers available, so if you want to learn more about the proposal and how it will function, please access it there. And we're really excited about it and hope to really amplify our advocacy on Social Work Advocacy Day. We have two more bills here before we move forward, but House Bill 316, this is another refile from past sessions, which codifies a definition for school social work services into the education code. The Senate companion to that bill is should just have been filed today, actually. And it is Senate Bill 1157, I believe. What this does is codify a definition for school social work services into the education code so that schools are able to distinguish really what that scope of practice looks like for school social workers and be able to distinguish that from school psychologists, school counselors, and so on. And also ensuring that as we hopefully employ more school social workers across the state, that they are providing the defined services here and spending the majority of their time doing that and not getting overburdened with any more of the administrative functions. Now, when we talk about this bill, and should this be a bill you decide to take to your legislator and advocate on, we often get the question of, okay, well, if we're not requiring schools to hire social workers through this bill, what are we doing? Like, how can we ensure we hire more? And that brings me to Senate Bill 948, School Mental Health Allotment. Christine has been doing a lot of work on this bill with many of our advocacy partners in this space. So we are not the champions on it necessarily, but everybody's working on it on a collective effort from our partners in the advocacy mental health space. What this does, though, is create a mental health allotment fund that directs dollars to school districts for them to decide at their own discretion how they want to spend those dollars to support student mental health outcomes, whether that is, excuse me, contracting with communities and schools, bringing in more school counselors, school social workers, substance use prevention services. It's up to the school districts to ultimately decide on that. And we testified in Senate Finance last week on this, and we'll be also testifying in the House Appropriations Committee for this, since it is going to cost money. One of the challenges that I'll talk about on SWAD Day is that legislators prefer and are more likely to pass bills that do not have any money attached to them. So that's why it's so important that some of these bills that are going to cost money, we talk with our legislators that are on those key committees that oversee the budget to include funding for them. Next slide, please. All right. So real quickly here, since I spent a lot of time on that previous slide talking about those bills, I want to just highlight some of the other social justice issues that NASW Texas is going to be weighing in on this session. So everything from racial justice efforts into addressing systemic oppression across all institutions that our state operates, from the criminal justice system to the child welfare, you name it. The healthcare quality and ensuring that we expand coverage in Texas. The fight for Medicaid expansion continues with our partners and coalition members of Covered Texas Now and the Children's Healthcare Coverage Coalition, and ensuring also with the Texas Women's Coalition that we are providing postpartum coverage for 12 months to moms in Medicaid, and also supporting the reproductive care and freedom in the state of Texas. We know the social injustice that has come around this issue in the past year, and there are more efforts to try and dismantle these rights for individuals. So we want to be supportive of anything that helps promote reproductive freedom and rights for individuals and access to abortion care. And everything also from immigration to voting rights and child welfare and protecting the civil liberties of LGBTQ Texans. So while NASW Texas is not going to be the champion on these issues, we will be working very closely and strategically, as we have been over the past several months, with our partners in this space to advocate on these issues and bills as they come through, and providing really that social work perspective on some of these. So whether that's the mental health piece or how these harmful policies or good ones may impact the communities and clients that we work with. That being said, I'm going to pass it over to Taylor to talk a little bit about registration and a few other items.
Brian, thank you for all that you do for NASW and for social workers at Capitol. So I just want to do a quick notice. So for registration, if you have not registered yet, that's fine. Online registration closes on Monday, the 27th. So you have all weekend and Monday to get registered. I did want to note for students, if you have not registered yet, please check with your school. Most universities and schools are doing groups. So double check with your school and connect with the administrator if they're doing a group and make sure you get added onto that. If your school is not doing a group, you can register yourself individually at NASW-TX SWAD.com. And I can show y'all where you can do that in just a second. Everybody will need to check in upon arrival. Individuals, you will check yourself in. And if you are a part of a group, just your administrator will check in. And another note for administrators, please do not forget to send me your SWAD admin form by the 27th when registration closes. I do need that form that has a list of everybody, all the students and faculty coming with your group, as well as their emails. So we want y'all to have a great day. We want you to be prepared. So here's just a little tips and tricks for Social Work Advocacy Day. It is March in Texas, so it's likely going to be very sunny and warm. Bring a water bottle, stay hydrated, sunscreen if you need it. Note-taking supplies, pen and paper. This is especially if you plan on doing legislative office visits to take notes. Charge up your phone for communication, but also for pictures. We want y'all posting about SWAD and tagging us, hashtag NASW-TX, hashtag SWAD-TX 2023, and hashtag paving pathways. Like, we want to see what y'all are doing. Are you going to office visits? You know, where just a selfie at the Capitol, what have it. And also, and I'm going to show you where you can find these printed handouts for your visits. Jess took a lot of time to make a very awesome legislative visit document that pretty much has everything you need to prepare and do a successful legislative office visit. And then optional is create a sign for the rally, have it say SWAD, have it say something about social work, put your school's name on it, talk about something that you're passionate about, an issue that's important to you. This is optional, but we are going to be at the Capitol, so this is your chance to share your voice. Definitely wear comfortable shoes, especially if you're going to be planning on attending all day. You're going to be on your feet a lot, you know, advocacy, it's boots on the ground, right? And then also we got to talk about our school spirit contest. So if you're going to be coming with your school, wear your school merch. There will be a school spirits contest for other individuals and professionals. Business casual is best. For the school spirit contest, you get a shout out from us on social media and bragging rights. Texas State won the school spirit contest in 2020. So they've had bragging rights for 3 years. So that was our last in-person SWAD.
To topple them. That's what I'm wanting to know. I'm like, I'm challenging y'all in this room right now. I want to see it. I want to be overwhelmed with the amount of school pride. All right, go ahead.
We want to see the school spirit. Yes.
And Taylor, I'm sorry, I wanted to mention something real quickly on attire too. Yes, we encourage folks to wear their school attire, but maybe also bring any kind of blazer or professional attire you can throw over in the event you are meeting with your legislator. Really important. I mean, all of us typically, you know, have a quick blazer we can hop on if we need to go over to the Capitol. So if you are meeting with your legislator, quick tip, you know, dress appropriately.
Very helpful. Thank you, Brian. And here I'm going to show you how you can navigate the SWAD website so you can see some of those resources I'm talking about. Now give me a thumbs up that y'all can see the website so I know it navigated over. Awesome. All right, so this is our beautiful website created by yours truly. Right here, we have this prep event tab. You've probably seen this. You went here to register for this event. By the end of today, that will house this recording for this presentation, as well as the PowerPoint, as Brian mentioned earlier. This networking tab, Jess is going to go over this in a little bit. This is going to have all the information to download the app that you're going to need for a networking breakfast. So resources, this is the tab I really want to show you all about. This is what you're going to want to go to if you want, especially if you're going to be doing legislative office visits. This is actually an updated version. I'm sorry I didn't add that, Jess, of this legislative office visit instructions. Everything you need, again, is going to be on that document. We have our NASW Texas Advocacy Toolkit. We also have our legislative priorities on this form. All of our one-pagers. This is very important. If you're going to be doing office visits and you're going to be speaking to maybe one of our champion bills, you would want to come over here. We have all of our one-pagers for our champion bills here as well. And if you're very new to the Texas legislature, we have from our previous government relations director, Allison Moore-Bowell, oh my gosh, y'all know Allison. She did these amazing presentations. We got an Advocacy 101 and a Texas Legislature 101. And they're also just really great refreshers. On here, this maps is something that I also like to highlight. We have maps and detailed parking tips and instructions for both LBJ and the Texas Capitol building, as well as accessibility information. If you want to know a little bit more about the speakers for the day, not all of them are on here, but we've got, speakers from our advocacy panel, our real committee, and our Capitol staff panel, if you'd like to learn more about some of the people who will be speaking. And then for class curriculum ideas, it's for faculty. TPACE, if you want to learn more about TPACE, our Texas Political Action for Candidate Election Committee. We will also have a TPACE booth at the LBJ Center. So you will be able to talk to a volunteer if you'd like to learn more about that. And join NASW. Students only pay $60 annually, so it's really beneficial. And Jess will touch more on membership later. Again, if you need to register still, you will go here and hit that register now button and it'll navigate you to our registration page. Again, students, please double check and make sure that you've spoken with your schools before registering. All right. So let's go over the agenda. The agenda is also on the website, but I wanted to pop back over to our presentation to go over this. So we're going to start our morning at LBJ Auditorium on the UT campus. 8 a.m. to about 9 a.m. We're doing check-in and networking breakfast. We will have tacos and coffee, vegetarian and vegan options as well. Around 9, Will Francis, our executive director, is going to do a nice welcome to all of our attendees. This is when we'll do that school spirit contest, as well as announce the Andrew Marks Student Advocacy Award winners. Around 9:30, Brian's going to give a great presentation detailing more about our legislative priorities and Advocacy 101, so you're prepared for a day of advocacy. Around 10, we've got our policy advocacy panel. This is a moderated panel of social work policy advocates. They're going to discuss advocacy on mental health, reproductive justice, and LGBTQIA+ issues. We're going to break for lunch at 11, leaving the LBJ auditorium. Lunch is not provided, that is on your own. And we'll be connecting again at the Capitol for the SWAD rally and Capitol staff roundtable. So you'll see that these are both at the same time. We want the afternoon to be kind of like build your own agenda. So there are different options happening at the same time. At 12:30, we will have the SWAD rally on the South Steps, and we'll also have the Capitol Staff Roundtable in the Capitol Auditorium. The Capitol Staff Roundtable will have about 4 Capitol staff members who are social workers. And then at 1:30, we have the Take Action for Paid Practicums. Y'all just heard Brian talk all about the SWIPS program. This is going to be with Jess Riley, our Communication Engagement Coordinator, Miranda Campos, with Fed Up at UT Austin, and one of our interns, Shannon Doyle as well, will be there. And then right after that, 2:30, we'll have the Real Town Hall. That's our NASW Texas Committee on Race, Equity, Accountability, and Leadership. And that will also be in the Capitol Auditorium. And while all of this is happening, you could also be doing legislative office visits. So it's really build your own agenda in the afternoon. And so I'm going to pass this over to Jess now to talk more about that networking breakfast.
Awesome. Thanks so much. That's so great. Okay, perfect. So I really just wanted to think about a creative way, essentially, to connect our attendees a bit more intentionally. And so, if you are a professional social worker and you have printed business cards and you like the old-fashioned paper way, you totally own that. I'm sure they're beautiful. However, if you are someone who does not have their own business card, or a student and trying to make inroads and networks early on in your social work career, then this is perfect for you. So we're going to be utilizing Blink, which is a app for your smartphone. So honestly, all I would like to do today is just have y'all look up Blink on the App Store and download it. And I'm just encouraging you, before you get to SWAD next Friday, complete the profile. My example of what my business card looks like is on the right-hand side. So you can see I get to put my pronouns, my credentials, a short bio, and basically load it up with any contact information that I want to share. And what it does is it generates automatically a unique QR code that I can actually just integrate into my home screen. And I have a QR that I can just have people scan, and it'll download a contact card from me to their phone instantly. You do not have to have the Blink app to scan other people's QR codes. So if you're not planning on setting one up yourself, but are still trying to network with other people who are utilizing the service, then that's completely fine. So it is super straightforward. And if anyone would like a bit more support, you can reach out to me. But these instructions will also be on the projector during the networking breakfast, just to make sure that everyone can do this if they haven't done it beforehand. And yeah, I think that's it. And if anyone has any questions, we have Q&A at the end. So feel free to put them in the chat. We'll save them, or we can get into it later. But I'm really excited for this. I would really love y'all to be connected intentionally and to maintain those connections. And next, we're talking about the rally sign up. So the SWAD Capitol Rally on the South Steps, which will kick us off after we reconvene after lunch, is really an opportunity for our attendees to have their voices heard and participate as an activist in that setting. And so this is really the activism piece of a lot of this advocacy day. And so if this is something that you're excited about and interested in and energized by, I encourage you to attend, and I encourage you to sign up to speak. So we will have a booth to sign up, like a table to sign up in the morning at LBJ, and then also at the South Steps at lunch as well. And so, you know, maybe if you're not sure what you want to sign up about yet and you just want to hear some others talk, that's completely fine. If you feel, you know, empowered to stand up and have your voice heard and would like to sign up kind of last minute while you're at the rally, that's great too. So just keep in mind, you know, if you want to have a 1-minute speech prepared or spontaneous, we encourage you to do that. Awesome. And now we're talking about office visits. And so before I actually get into scheduling, I'm going to launch a poll very quickly. I would love to see if y'all have any office visits scheduled before I actually get into this. So do you have a visit scheduled, either a large group with your school, maybe yourself and a friend, wasn't sure how to do it, and today is the opportunity for you to learn how, you know, not really planning on it, just kind of here for the guided stuff.
And
I know
it's totally okay if you have not planned one yet, but would like to. We encourage you all to get in touch with your office and find out who your legislative representative is and set up that meeting. One of the reasons why we also picked Friday for SWAD is because there are no committee hearings on Fridays. Legislators are more flexible on those days, and so are their staff. So we have more of our meetings on Fridays too then. So there's still an opportunity to set those meetings up with your state rep or House representative or with your state senator, maybe even both. But yeah, and I'll talk more about, you know, what that process looks like after the poll results and after this slide.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Bryan. And I also just want to encourage all that these instructions are in that document on the resources page. It's actually a 2-page document now. I was pushing it out as a 1-page with just the instructions, but it's actually a 2-page document that walks you through the legislative office visit now, which is great. So check out that resources page so that you can have this on hand. I am going to end the poll. It looks like we've kind of flattened out. And it looks like most of us are really just kind of here for the programming, but we definitely have a handful of people who are meeting in large group with their legislator offices, a few folks doing it kind of independently, and a couple of y'all who have tried but no response. I would just encourage you, if you have tried to set up an office visit via email, pick up the phone. It may be a little bit more comfortable sometimes to just email that office, but it puts pressure on them once they answer to give you a yes or no answer, if they're available or not. We're really just trying to get in front of whoever is available, whatever staffer has time out of their day to sit down with you and take some notes and pass them along, even if they're not, you know, the one who handles that committee or anything like that. But basically, step 1, go find out who represents me. So in the document, this is all hyperlinked. Learn a little bit about your legislator, just kind of see what committee they're on, what they voted for in the past, like maybe what their framework and value system is as far as like what they typically lean towards in terms of arguments that they favor. That might help you prepare and develop a bit of a strategy. And then call in and schedule the meeting. So there's a little script there for you to do that. But I'm just going to go ahead and pass it along. And please, if you have not scheduled it, I would just call today. Just figure out who represents you. It'll give you the office phone number to call, and that's where you start.
Thank you, Jess. And yeah, just to reiterate, make sure to mention you are a constituent. That has value. There are many offices that I have seen actually in some where it says if you are a constituent, write this way, like, and prioritize them before the lobbyists like myself or others. It is important to them, and make sure that you make that very clear, who you or what area in their district they're in. And yeah, do your research about them. It's always helpful to know, have an idea of, what issues are important to them, maybe what their background is. Really important things you can do really in advance before this session or before your meeting. And I did want to also quickly mention, though, that not all of your visits may be with your, like directly with your representative or state senator. It may be with one of their staffers, which is totally acceptable. Those are the majority of the folks that we work with when we go and do our advocacy and lobbying at the Capitol. They are really more of the subject matter experts in the space anyways, since they're the ones that are doing all the research, all the vetting of legislation. They have that knowledge. And if they don't on some of these issues that you go and talk to them about, remember that you are there to serve as a resource. You are there to provide them with information. But if you are able to get in with your representative, terrific. If you aren't and have to speak with a staffer, that's also okay. Make sure to also take any pictures as a group and share them on social media if you are having an office visit. We'd love to see that. Now, talking a little bit more on how to prepare for these office visits. I promise it's not as intimidating as some might think. And they last anywhere between 15 to maybe 20 minutes at the most. So not much time, so you can still get to so many of the other workshops and activities that we'll have going on during SWAD. And yes, plan them anytime in the afternoon, so that you can meet with them and still attend the other things. So first, some of the things you want to do in advance is review our policy priorities, get familiar with them, and see which ones resonate with you or another group of students that are in your cohort. Or maybe you meet more students during the networking breakfast in the morning of SWAD. Get together and make sure that you have an identified ask. Maybe it's a specific bill, for example, the paid practicums or the SWIPs bill, assuming obviously that we have a official bill number in by then, which we should, fingers crossed. Have an ask, and one of that part of that ask is, can we count on your support on this bill? Would your boss, would Representative so-and-so, State Senator so-and-so be interested in co-authoring this legislation or sponsoring in some way? Can we count on your support is what you want to get to at the end of that. Oftentimes you'll get a response like, well, I'd be happy to run this through my boss and see what his thoughts are. Great. And part of that takeaway, or one of the things you'll do at the end and after SWAD later that afternoon or come Monday, hey, it was a great meeting with you. Let us know if this is something your boss would be interested in signing on to. So after you've identified your ask, identify your why. So this is where those one-pagers come in place on some of the champion bills that we're working on. And if maybe it's a separate issue or another bill that you want to talk to your legislator about, great. We do encourage you to do one on the NASW-TX priorities, since we have built those resources in for you. But take those and learn about them a little bit. If you have any other detailed questions, shoot us an email, but all of it really should be there. Do your own kind of background and research on this, specific to your district, your area that your representative is representative of, so that you can provide any kind of data on that if you have it available or if able to dig into it. That always has a tremendous impact on it. Reflect on why the issue matters to social workers. So this is kind of where those social work skills come into play. What is the impact that it has on my community? Why is it important to them? And why should it be important to my representative on addressing it? Reflect on the issue and how it impacts you directly or other Texans. Maybe you have lived experience. Maybe you've already completed your BSW internship and now you're going to do your MSW internship. Well, talk about how it was to maybe complete your internship without any kind of compensation. Share that lived experience. You are a constituent sharing that lived experience with them, which really resonates and has meaning behind it if you're able to communicate that to them. So all important things there. After you've identified some of your why, practice the partner or a group beforehand. I encourage this within our team of interns as well. You want to talk with somebody that knows nothing about the issue. So that way you have a fresh set of eyes and ears to say, okay, here are some of the questions I have, and be prepared to answer some of those questions. So in anything that you don't have the answer to, that's okay. I can't remind folks enough that it's okay to not have the answer to everything, which is why we can always say, hey, I'd be happy, I don't have that information in front of me, but I'd be happy to follow up with your office or get you in touch with our government relations director or policy team at NASW Texas with an answer to that. But yes, practice with the partner. That way they can kind of probe any questions that might be thrown at you during the time. Always really helpful. And again, take those handouts with you so that you can leave them with their office as a reminder. If you have a business card, great, leave that with them and make sure to take one of theirs as well for a thank you. Next slide, please. Oh, and I should mention that on the SWAD website, we actually have step-by-step instructions on the on how to carry those office visits. So if you would like to learn a little bit more about how to navigate that, please make sure to check the website for those step-by-step instructions. I think it's like a 1.5-page long document with full-on guide for each of you to look over. So takeaways such as tips and reminders in those legislative office visits. Go in with that strategy. Maybe it's you on your own taking it, or maybe it's you as a group. Who's going to talk about what if you're going in a group? Maybe the fiscal impact, so whether it's going to cost money, how it impacts their community, how maybe it impacted you directly. Go in with the strategy beforehand. Be polite and do not talk over staffers or your representative. Very fundamental, but we want to make sure that we give them all the time in the world to ask any questions, and we have then the opportunity to answer them. So always be polite, even if you have disagreements with either your representative or the staff. This is, again, where those social work skills come into place. Find ways to communicate with them and continue to be polite and do not talk over. This is where those social work skills come in to be able to resolve issues and get to a place of resolution. Take deep breaths. Remember, they are people too. Bring your social work skills, as I mentioned, and be authentic. Legislative staff need your experience or your expertise and perspective much more than you think. Some of them, you might meet with a staffer who is a social worker, so may not have to provide as much context or background, but a lot of folks are not in that building. So be able to explain the issues thoroughly and how it impacts social workers and the benefit it does to the long-term positive benefits maybe one of the bills you are talking about has on strengthening the mental health workforce, because that's what legislators are trying to address this session. Again, admit if you don't know the answer to the question, that is totally okay. Let them know that you'll get back to them and send them a follow-up email with it. And again, send them a thank you afterwards so they have your contact information saved. This is really important because it could be that maybe their boss, yes, is interested in this bill, but they want to do a follow-up meeting with you. Have that contact information saved, so before you walk out the door, be sure to grab their business card. All right, and then I'm going to pass it, I believe, back over to Jess here.
Thank you so much, Brian. I'm just making sure that everyone is on track. Awesome. So I'm just going to talk quickly about membership, and I thought about making this slide just kind of a general membership slide because I know that we have a mix of professionals and students. But honestly, I think it's important for the students in the room to recognize and realize that there is a specific membership dedicated to you, and it is 75% off of the professional rate. And so I just think it's important because, this is the most student-attended event of the year, and I would kick myself if I didn't tell y'all to get more involved, because I know all of you are passionate and amazing social work students who want to give back to the profession and get more involved in your communities. I know it in my heart. And that being said, I'm just going to go over the top 5 reasons that I encourage students to join. So first of all, networking and community building. Obviously, SWAD, we're really going out of our way to make sure that there's guided networking and community building integrated. As community engagement coordinator, I try to prioritize that throughout everything that we do. But there are really kind of special benefits and online communities that are member only exclusive, and they're highly valuable. And it's networking with the 100,000 plus social work NASW members across the country. And so I'll just pitch it with that one resource, but there's plenty of others to go along with it. Local communities, local branches, local events, those kinds of things as well. The second is professional development. And so for professionals and those who are like licensed or practicing, CEUs are typically what we think of, but I wanted to emphasize for the students in the room that professional development doesn't start at licensure. It starts when you enter your social work higher education and begin engaging with the profession and the values, right? And so we actually have dedicated professional development webinars for students through National. And I didn't put that specific link on here, but it's a bit.ly, just bit.ly/NASW student events. And there's one every single month that you can tune into and actually review all of the recordings from the past year and a half of programming. If you're a leader of the student org, I actually did a student org training as well. So the third is legislative advocacy. So obviously everyone in this room is at least in some way invested in ensuring that we are advocating for our profession, ourselves, the clients that we serve, and our membership in an intangible way allows us to do that, right? We can only be, employees and staff of NASW Texas if we have enough membership to support the hiring of those roles, right? We can only do what we do and influence the change that we attempt to influence because of our membership. We are a staff of 5 full-time and 1 part-time and a membership of over 5,000 across the state of Texas. When people think about NASW Texas, they think that we're this enormous organization with, a huge staff. That's not true. There is a handful of us making this whole show run, and everything that we do and the way that we're able to carry out change and professional development resources is our local volunteers. So we have volunteer opportunities as well, which is more community building. I'm getting off track. Let me just blaze through this with questions. The fourth is financial resources and scholarships, especially if you're considering graduate or doctorate scholarships and fellowships. The NASW Foundation is exactly where you would go for that, and members to have exclusive access to those. And the last one is the discounted student price. So if you join as a student, you get 75% off of the professional rate, which is $60 for the year. And if you join as a student, you actually get a discount post-graduation as well. But if you try to join immediately after graduation, you don't get access to that discount. It's called the transitional membership to help you transition from student to professional. And the bonus is NASW graduation cords. Another reason to join before graduation is to have this beautiful teal graduation cord that every NASW student member across the entire country will be repping on graduation day. So don't forget to sign up and get yours. And I believe we'll have a box at SWAD. So if you're interested in signing up, that might be a good opportunity. So maybe do it before you get there or while you're there. And I think that is it. Thank you so much. And voter voice. I forgot. Is this me?
Yeah,
okay, great. So let's make sure that everyone gets signed up for voter voice. So our main advocacy alert system is accessible to members and non-members. So if y'all have a smartphone and are comfortable with the QR, then that would be great. And just go ahead and scan it, and basically you can sign up to receive specific emails from our NASW Texas advocacy alerts. And anytime that we create a campaign calling social workers to action to advocate for something specific, whether it's a committee coming up or a bill that just needs some hype and some emails sent out, this is what we will be notified through. So if you would like to be engaged throughout the session, this is your way to do that. Thank you. Awesome.
All right, thank you, Jess. Real quickly on the advocacy certificate, Taylor, if you don't mind briefly mentioning it, just because we're running low on time and we need to answer some questions.
Yeah, I was just going to say, there will be a link on the website for you to get your advocacy certificate. Make sure to check with your professors and field instructors, as some are going to offer extra credit and also field hour opportunities. And I did want to do a quick thank you to our sponsors, TCU, UH, and Texas A&M Central Texas, and UT Tyler. They are the reason we get to provide y'all with breakfast tacos and coffee to get you fueled up and ready for a day of advocacy.
Perfect. Thank you, Taylor. Now we'll field questions from the audience. I saw some of them in the chat. We were able to answer a couple, but I know there were a few others remaining. And yes, if we go over just a few minutes, just mentioned we will be recording this. I want to make sure that we answer everybody's questions. So let's go ahead and I'll turn it over to Shannon, and please let us know what questions came in.
Sure thing. Would you like me to work backwards? That might be a little easier just to get our headspace in. We had a couple questions right at the end there about how to get a cord for graduation.
Yes. Absolutely. Well, so cords are technically now free. We had a charge before, but the only charge on the website ordering is actually the shipment charge. So if you would like to just directly order yours and have it shipped to your house, it's going to cost $5. But I believe we should have enough at SWAD if you come and verify your membership with me and say that you need a cord, that I should be able to give you one right there. So if you're coming to SWAD and you don't have a cord and you need a cord and you're a student member, come see the membership table. And I'll drop the link for ordering in the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jess. And then I think we addressed some of this in the chat about legislative visits. Is it a requirement? Is it not? And how do we, if you're not comfortable with it, how do we, how do we best engage for the day? Like if you're a BSW or not a student, what are the expectations?
Yeah, great question. I saw some of those come up in the chat. Yeah, we are really encouraging folks to meet with their legislators. But again, if you are not comfortable with that, that's perfectly acceptable and okay. What you can do after the entire advocacy, perhaps maybe you want instead, and that's really why we developed the programming in the afternoon, to create your own adventure, essentially. Want to go to the rally? Would you like to listen in on some of these workshops? And then afterwards, if you don't meet with your legislator, you'll hopefully be able to walk away with some tools from those experiences from both the morning and afternoon to then engage in advocacy and contacting your legislative office. You can always meet with them via Zoom afterwards. You don't have to be in Austin, or you can send them an email, perhaps on an issue that you walked away with more information and would like to, get their support on. But yes, this event is open to everybody. It's to students at both MSW and BSW. I was just using that earlier as an example, and then professionals as well, and faculty. So we really look forward to having everybody no matter where you are in the space.
Yeah, thank you. And again, just to clarify, we have events going on all day. So even if you don't have a legislative visit booked, that's perfectly fine. You have plenty of other opportunities to get involved. We had a question about what the SWAD rally is going to look like. What is it actually for? Who's going to be there? We might have gone over this briefly, but
I'll defer to Jess on that one real quickly.
Can you repeat that? What part of it? I missed your first.
So what is the rally going to look like? Who's going to be there? And what is it for?
Yes, absolutely. So essentially, the rally is just a space for us all to come together and advocate in the form of activism, right? So office visits is one way to advocate, where you're really kind of in an interpersonal conversation with the legislative office, but a rally is another way to be public and to be visible and to create a crowd and to show our support for things that we care about. And I know that we actually had some questions in the chat about kind of what can you talk about? Anything that you're passionate about. We really, encourage and provide our ledge priorities just to kind of give a framework. But if you're passionate about diversity, equity, and inclusion, if you're passionate about disability rights, if you're passionate about reducing gun violence, we absolutely encourage you to be loud and proud about that. And all of those, you're all experts essentially in a lot of these areas as well. So that is especially valuable. And I just wanted to say that as well. So there will be at the rally, we're trying to secure our legislative speaker. We've typically featured Diego Bernal in the past because he has a background in social work to kind of kick us off for the rally. I think we're still doing a couple of scheduling to try to see who will actually be present at that event. But we will have an opportunity to hear from a legislator. We'll hear from some staff and talk about SWAD, and then open it up to make sure that our participants have the opportunity to have their voices heard. And it'll be a podium with a mic and beautiful banners. I hope that describes it.
Thanks, Jess. Shannon, any other questions?
Thank you, Jess. I think you just covered this too, but so when people do like legislative visits and stuff, it doesn't necessarily have to be around our priorities. It can be on any issue, right? Okay.
And I know that some of y'all are actually advanced policy students and maybe have done a policy project and are looking for ways to engage in that. Just so you know, like all of that is welcome as well. I know I've had specific conversations with people about their projects for people who are advanced.
Okay, thank you. I think that was most of the questions about advocacy. If I'm wrong, just drop them in the chat. We did have a question about parking. I think Taylor mentioned most of our information is on the website, but the question was, is there direction for parking for groups?
So it's all dependent on how you're arriving. So there is directions for parking for individual vehicles and for bus drop off at the LBJ, and then also bus parking for the Capitol Auditorium. So if you go to the NASW-TX SWAD.com and go to that maps tab, you will have detailed parking instructions, maps on where to park, and accessibility instructions as well.
And I believe, just to clarify, the tips document has specific instructions for bus drop off as well, right?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
So it will tell you exactly what to put in your GPS in order to go park as an individual, and what to put in your GPS if you have a bus that will be dropping you off as well.
Just click through all the hyperlinks, and then if it doesn't apply to you, then don't worry about it. That's what I would say.
Sorry, I'm just checking through. I think we had a couple of questions near the beginning about our legislative priorities, particularly around the paid practicums bill. We had some questions about that, which, as we mentioned before, we do have a workshop during SWAD around this issue where we'll cover a lot of those questions. But a couple of questions that were brought up were, will the stipend for internship include out-of-state students or only Texas resident students? And then how is the program different from the Title IV Child Welfare Stipend program? That were a couple of questions there.
Yeah, so the first of the question on whether the stipend would apply to out-of-state students, yes, as long as they're enrolled in a CSWE accredited institution in Texas, then yes, it would apply to them as the bill is written right now. Now, when that bill is filed in publicly and you're all able to see it, you will, I'm sure that some of y'all may still have more very detailed questions about the program. Don't get me wrong, the bill itself is, I think, 5 pages, but there's only so much you can actually include in the bill that, you know, after the whole legislative process is done, there's still the implementation phase, and the agency will oversee that in much more details about the program that will take some time to hash out, essentially. So yes to the question, it would cover out-of-state students, and then to the one of how it's different from the child welfare Title IV program. So that one is for tuition payment or reimbursement for MSW, or for, yeah, if you're in an MSW program or a BSW program, I believe. And what is different from the stipend is this hourly stipend that's provided to students, no matter what program they are in, and as it is written right now. So that is really the difference, so that it's more of this, you know, direct stipend going to students, whereas the child welfare program is tuition assistance.
Can I just, it will be
Yes,
a sum stipend based on required hourly contributions. It's not necessarily the state giving you an hourly wage. I just wanted to clarify that language.
Thank you for
Great,
clarifying.
thank you. Yeah. Still a stipend. Yeah.
All right. Anything else, Shannon?
I think that was most of the questions that I'd collected.
Great.
But if anyone else has dropped anything in the chat, then I can answer that too.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, everybody. We're a little over time there, 3 minutes, but I appreciate everybody that was able to attend. And I don't know about y'all, but I'm incredibly excited to see you all next Friday and kick off this in-person event at the Capitol, and hopefully meet all of you in person if we haven't already. We look forward to seeing you then. If anything comes up, please shoot us a question, but make sure to also check the SWAD website for any other resources that you might need in advance. Thank you again so much, and I hope you all have a great weekend.
See you next week.